Howdy neighbors, Christopher Henry with Neue Mountain Music, and we are very happy to be sharing with you the Beginner's Mandolin by Ear course. This is the first week of a 12-week program. So it's all taught by ear. So if you've been struggling to learn how to play, or you just really wanted to learn how to play for the first time, this is a perfect course for you. Okay, for all ages. And let me just kind of run down what's in it real quick, and then we're going to get to the first week of the course, which is what this video is. In the first week, you get your introduction, you get your history, the different parts of the mandolin, you know what the scroll is, and the F-holes, and truss rod cover, and all this kind of stuff, the strap, and of course how to tune the mandolin, how to hold your pick, and then we kind of get on into the counting and the strumming. You learn G, C, and D, your first chords. You learn your major G 2-octave scale. You learn your shuffle lick, we play our first song, and then we talk about the 3 pillars of practice, which are going to be the way to stay organized through the whole course. And that's week 1. That's what this video is. It's quite long. You can go at your own pace, you can stream or download this whole course. You can go to neuemountainmusic.com to check it out. And then in the following 11 weeks, we start out with teaching you simple songs that you've probably known since you're real little. Mary Had a Little Lamb, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, You Are My Sunshine, then it gets to All Fly Away, and When the Saints Go Marching In a little later in the course. So you're building a bridge between the music that's inside of you and how to find it on your mandolin. Going very slowly, meticulously explaining all the details so there's no guesswork. Lots of places to play along. We talk about how to use your strum machine, how to use your metronome. There's a folder inside the main folder, which is about 40 simple arrangements of even more simple tunes that you can use for your internal repertoire. Pillar 2 of the internal repertoire is learning how to pick stuff out on your own. That's the hacking work. It's super important. All this is explained in great detail. And so by the time you get to week 7, we're going to transpose everything that we learned, chords, melodies, all that kind of stuff, from the key of G to the key of A. We get into our chop chords, we get into the major A arpeggio, we learn more advanced practice stuff that you can use in your grunt work. That's pillar 1. Pillar 3 is external. We already talked about pillar 2, that's internal. And so you're getting so many great tools that's going to allow you to advance step by step, but it's all building together. It's a lot of work, but 30 minutes a day is going to get you up the mountain. So we're singing along, we're picking, we're grinning, we're having fun, connecting the voice and the music and the counting and the foot pattern and all the good stuff. And there's a lot of bonus material for each week. So we'll take our simple arrangement that we learned in one register and we'll take it to another register. We'll find a low octave. We'll talk about some different rhythmic variations that you can do for each song. That is the bonus material. So it is a wonderful course. I highly recommend it. And without any further ado, let's go ahead and start week 1 of Beginner's Mandolin by Ear. Hello neighbors, and welcome to Neue Mountain Music and the Beginner's Mandolin by Ear course. I'm Christopher Henry, and I'm so excited to be with you here, guiding you on this mandolin journey. Whether you're new to music or just new to the mandolin, this course is designed to be a fun and accessible way to get started, all while learning by ear. This course is for everyone, from young folks to wise elders and everyone in between. If you've ever wanted to play the mandolin or just wanted to explore music in a hands-on, ear-driven way, you are in the right place. Over the next 12 weeks, we'll build a solid foundation together. By the end, you'll not only have a strong grasp of the mandolin, but you'll also be able to play many simple songs. It's all about developing the skills and confidence to play without relying on sheet music or tab. Just listening, learning, and playing. Now, I'll be honest, learning an instrument takes effort. To make real progress, I recommend putting in at least 30 minutes to an hour a day for practice. With consistency and dedication, you'll be amazed at what you can accomplish. But don't worry, we'll take it step by step, and I'm here to support you along the way. Since learning by ear may be a new thing for you, or maybe music in general is new, we're going to be learning how to learn. It's all about embracing the process, and while it will be challenging at times, I encourage you to be gentle with yourself, especially when you hit a rough spot. Remember, learning music is a journey, and progress takes time. The songs we're going to learn are classics, tunes that are well known in the folk and bluegrass worlds. We've chosen these because they're not only fun, but they're excellent for beginners. We'll teach you a lot about how to listen, how to internalize music, and how to play by ear, and there's a good chance you may know many of them. Now, a little bit about my background. My mom is Murphy Henry, and some of you may know she's a bit of a legend in the bluegrass world. She's a master banjo player, singer, songwriter, and teacher. My parents started making how to play banjo by ear cassette tapes back in the early 80s, and this became the foundation for the Murphy method, which is all about learning music by ear without relying on written music or tablature. My mom realized when students stopped relying on the paper and instead focused on learning by ear, they not only learned songs more quickly, but they also learned how to really hear the music, how to improvise, and how to transpose, that is, change keys. These are all essential skills and the foundation of how I teach today. Of course, I've added a few things of my own that I found useful through working with my own students, but the core of my approach comes from the Murphy method. My mom taught me my first chords when I was 4 years old, G, C, and D. I remember it being challenging and my fingers hurting from pressing down the strings. I didn't stick with it right away. It wasn't until I was around 9 or 10 that I came back to it. I actually started with ukulele because I felt like it was a little easier. But eventually, I returned to the mandolin, largely inspired by my dad, Red, who, as some of you may know, is one of the greatest mandolin players in history. Growing up, I was surrounded by music. My parents had one of the most popular bluegrass bands in the Southeast from the late 70s into the mid-80s. And as they transitioned more into full-time teaching, I was always listening. I even requested a jam session for my 3rd birthday, a picking party. I would pick up my little ukulele or fiddle, play along as best I could, but mostly I was just absorbing the music. It was going straight into my mental and spiritual hard drive, not to mention that my mom was literally playing guitar and banjo on top of my head when I was in the womb for 9 months. So when I was finally ready to start playing seriously, I had a nice head start as the music was already inside me in a good way. And that's something that you can do too, by listening a lot. The more you listen, the more the music becomes a part of you, and when you're ready to start playing, it'll feel much easier. So if you're not holding your mandolin just yet, listen to the songs and letting them sink in. The music will start to live inside you too. In your course folder, you're going to find recordings of all the songs that we're going to be learning. The recordings are mostly in the key of G major. We're also going to get to A. Now here's a little tip. If you listen to these songs a lot and let that sound settle in your head, it can make things so much easier. Ultimately, it's all about being able to hear the sound in your head and heart and knowing how to find it on your instrument, whether that's a mandolin, guitar, singing, or any other instrument. The more you can internalize the sound, the more natural it will be to find it on your instrument, and the easier it will be to progress. We're aiming to give you all the best, most modern tools so the recipe for success is as easy as possible to follow. Circling back to our course goal, by the end of this 12-week journey, you'll have solid technique, conceptual comprehension, a bit of helpful theory, and some tunes that hopefully you already know and love. These songs will help bridge the gap between the music inside your heart and mind and the music that comes out of your instrument. The goal here is to empower you to play the music you already have inside your head without needing to rely on any crutch like written music to tell you where to find the notes on the mandolin. This approach is rooted in the folk tradition, which is the foundation of bluegrass, old-time, country, gospel, blues, and many other styles of music. If you're interested in jazz or classical music, this method can help you get started, but the tradition I'm teaching here speaks to the power of listening and playing by ear. Now, I'm going to ask you to trust me on this. Do not write down the notes or rhythms. That's counterproductive and is the antithesis of what we're doing, which is the essence of learning by ear. I want you to focus on listening and watching closely, then pause the video, rewind, and repeat as many times as needed to really get each piece before moving on. Practice, 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 work hard, but be gentle with yourself and find your flow. Once you've mastered something, then move on to the next. But again, no writing things down. We want to break free from the crutch of paper. Speaking of finding your flow, it's important to stay in your sweet spot, the place where you're challenged but not overwhelmed. Keep track of your feelings during practice. If you get stressed, take a deep breath. relax, sigh it out a little. I encourage you to even put a little sticky note somewhere that says breathe that's visible while you practice as a gentle reminder. Don't forget to stay hydrated. You'll also find the course syllabus available to print, which provides a roadmap of the course structure and instructions for weekly goals you'll be working towards. For some folks, learning by ear can be more challenging than reading musical notation or tablature at first, but it is worth it. Think about it like learning a new language. Babies start with goo goo gaga goo 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 and slowly grow from mumbling into speaking coherently and clearly. That's how it is with music. Verbal and oral sound-based communication is the first language we all learn, and it's by ear that we start to communicate with the world. We listen, imitate, and refine over time. We'll be working on the building of the bridge between the music inside you and the music you express on your instrument. It takes time to become proficient. We all learn at different speeds, and that is perfectly okay. Just keep putting in the honest, hard work, and the music will meet you halfway. The first 6 weeks might be challenging, but they're also designed to be fun and manageable. By the second half of the course, you'll be facing tougher material, but the skills you built in the first half will make it easier to tackle the more difficult stuff. And finally, I encourage you all to sing and hum along as much as you can. The more you vibrate with the music, the quicker the learning process will be. You don't have to worry too much about being on pitch, but putting in the good effort there is highly recommended. So pick up your mandolin if you don't have her in your hand, and let's get started, all right? The first week lesson is a lot of information, so please feel free to take your time if you feel like you need more than a week. It's okay to go at your own pace. We're going to be talking a lot about basics as an introduction, then get to learning chords, the major G 2-octave scale, and then go over the 3 pillars of practice for your homework. Let's get started by talking about the mandolin. We're going to start from the very ground up to help folks that might not know anything about where the mandolin comes from or what all the different parts are. The mandolin has a fascinating history. Originally from Italy, it was descended from the lute and was designed with a rounded bowl-back shape, sometimes called a tater bug in the country vernacular, but it was the Gibson Company who revolutionized the instrument by creating the flat-backed mandolin that we know today. The most popular design became famous in 1922, largely thanks to the work of Lloyd Loar, a brilliant Gibson acoustic engineer, and it quickly became the go-to style for bluegrass and folk musicians in the mid and late 40s. One of the most iconic mandolins in history is the Loar-signed F5 model made famous by Bill Monroe, who essentially defined bluegrass with his playing. Today I play a Randy Wood mandolin, and Randy Wood's craftsmanship helped spark a wave of builders who began producing high-quality F5 copies in the late 60s, launching what we now call the F5 copy revolution. If you're looking for an excellent mandolin under $1,000, you might want to check out brands like Eastman and Kentucky, which make some of the best instruments in that price range. They're known for their excellent build, sound, and craftsmanship. So mandolins come in 2 main body styles, A style and F style. The A style has a simple, symmetrical teardrop body shape, and it's often less expensive and widely used in folk and classical music. The A style may have an oval sound hole in the middle or carved F holes like a violin. The F style, like this one, has a more ornate asymmetrical shape with a carved scroll at the top, 2 F holes and 2 points. The F style is associated with bluegrass thanks to its louder, sharper sound, and of course the style made famous by Bill Monroe and many other bluegrass greats. Let's break down the key parts of the mandolin so you can familiarize yourself with the instrument. The peg head, or headstock, this is the top portion of the mandolin where the tuners are located. The tuners, sometimes called tuning machines, these are used to adjust the pitch of your strings, helping you tune your mandolin. The nut is the small piece at the top of the neck that holds the strings in place and helps with proper string height. The truss rod cover, located on the headstock, this covers the truss rod that adjusts the neck's curvature. The truss rod is a metal piece that runs through the neck, underneath the fingerboard. The neck is the long, slender part of the mandolin which houses the fretboard. This is usually an ebony piece of wood that goes on the top of the neck on which the frets are placed. The frets are metal strips embedded in the neck that help define the notes of the instrument. The inlays are little decorative markers in the fingerboard that help you navigate the frets while playing. The body is the main resonating part of the mandolin that amplifies the sound. The scroll is the decorative curved part of the body here, found on F-style mandolins. It's part of what gives the F-style its distinctive shape. The sound holes are either oval or F-shaped, and they allow the sound to resonate from the body. The bridge is the part that holds the strings above the body and transmits the vibrations from the strings onto the top of the mandolin. Tailpiece, this is where the strings are anchored at the bottom of the mandolin. A little tailpiece cover there, it's where the strings get attached. Strap button is a small button where you can attach a strap to the mandolin while playing. And this right here is called the finger rest or pick guard, and it'll help you make sure you don't scratch your mandolin. And the little points are down here, give a little extra style to the mandolin. Alright, so now let's talk about straps. It's important to get a good, comfortable strap for your mandolin. Strap not only helps you hold your instrument more securely, but also gives you better control, especially as you get into more complex playing. You can choose to wear it over your shoulder or over your head, and you just got to kind of get your strap to fit over the button here. Might be a little tight, might take a little finagling there, but you can get it on. And just depending on what kind of strap you got, you're going to loop it around your scroll here, or there might be another little button here towards the bottom of the neck. Just have it over your shoulder there, or over your head. I like to have mine over the shoulder, and just feeling where you're real comfortable. Okay, you don't want to have like any awkward, tension in your shoulder or your back. So yeah, you can choose to wear it over your shoulder or over your neck, whatever you like. Let's talk about how to hold the mandolin. You want to find a position that feels comfortable yet secure. If you're sitting, make sure you're sitting straight with your back relaxed but not slouched over. You want to rest the bottom shoulder or the point of your mandolin on your leg and let the neck of the mandolin extend comfortably towards your left hand. If you're standing, of course you can use the strap to support your mandolin, keeping the neck angled in a way that feels natural. Your left hand should stay relaxed and poised to fret the strings without excessive strain. You don't want the mandolin neck to be too far out or too far in, just somewhere comfortable. Whether you're sitting or standing, make sure the mandolin feels stable and balanced and your arms are at a comfortable angle with no unnecessary tension in your neck, your wrists, or your shoulders. So throughout the course, I'll be speaking from the perspective of a right-hand player. If you're a left-hand player, you'll simply need to reverse the directions and techniques that I described. They're the same principles, just mirrored. So typically, your left hand will be responsible for pressing down on the frets and forming chords. You'll be using your fingers to form various shapes on the fingerboard. Your right hand will handle the pick to strum or pluck the strings. Now we'll talk about how to hold the pick. So we're going to think about having a golf ball in our hand, okay? Just a little golf ball rolling around, which means that your fingertips are going to be kind of connected, okay, with your thumb in there too. So all your fingertips are connected, got the golf ball in there, make sure the golf ball doesn't fall out, okay? So now we're going to kind of rotate our wrist like this, take thumb off a little bit, okay? All right, so now we put the pick on the farthest extension of our first finger there. And you can kind of just like make it like a little extension like that. So it's coming right off the top. And what you want to do is tilt the pick just slightly to the left, like that. And your thumb comes down perpendicular. So your thumb is perpendicular to your first finger. And then the pick can kind of go in there, but just you want to push it up just a little bit like that, okay? All right, that's going to be not too much pick like that. You do not want to have a bunch of pick coming out, just a little bit, okay? And remember, it's going to be like an extension of your first finger. Just tilt it up just a little bit, okay? Something like that. And then you're going to want to get in your sweet spot. So about halfway between the bridge and where the neck meets the body, somewhere maybe if you have your Florida scooped out here. We didn't talk about the Florida, but this little part of the fingerboard which comes down, which looks like the shape of the state of Florida, that's what it's called. That's called the Florida. So somewhere in there is going to be your best place to be positioned for good picking and your sweet spot. All right, so some people like to tilt their pick forward like this to get a little bit darker of a tone. Some people like to tilt backwards. But what I recommend for you right now is just to be right perpendicular to the string. That way you don't have to worry about hearing this scrapey sound of the strings winding. So if you're just perpendicular, you won't hear any of that scraping sound like that. And you can experiment with tilting your pick forward or backward down the road, but for now just have it right perpendicular there. It's going to give you a good clear sound. Remember that your pick is going to kind of be tilted up a little bit, so your finger can come up this way. All right. So in essence, like when you have this little part of your finger pointing down, then your pick can kind of be straight on with this part of your finger. All right, and just a little bit of the pick hanging out. So your first little part of your digit is tilted in a little bit, and the vertical part here is lined up with the pick, and so that becomes perpendicular with your thumb. Okay, and just how much you want to tilt your first finger down, you can kind of flavor that to taste, find something that feels comfortable. And that is how to hold your pick. Now when you're fretting, you want to put your finger right behind the fret and press down firmly. It will likely hurt a little bit when you're just starting, but the calluses will build and it won't hurt as much and will probably sound better down the road. When you're holding the mandolin, your right hand is going to want to be in front of the bridge, and you can lightly touch or brush the top of the bridge a little bit to help with placement. Just don't press too hard on the bridge because that will stop the top from vibrating a little bit. The neck should be angled at a comfortable position for your left hand to reach the frets easily without straining your wrist. I want to encourage y'all to not have your thumb on the back of the mandolin neck like that, like it is sometimes in classical guitar, and have it either on the top of the neck here or poking out just above. That's going to be a good position because you want to get some pressure from the back of the bottom of your thumb on the back of the neck. Now let's talk about which fingers go on which frets. We're going to talk about how to play in first position, which you can also think about as an open position because we'll be playing lots of open strings. Playing open means you are not fretting any of the strings. It means it goes from the bridge all the way to the nut without being stopped. When we say we're fretting a string, that means we're stopping the string's vibration and effectively shortening its length. We'll use our index finger or first finger for the first two frets. The middle finger goes on frets 3 and 4. The ring finger covers frets 5 and 6. The pinky finger or little finger will be on the 7th fret, but we're not going to be using that finger in this course. We'll get pinky in the game a little farther down the road. For the best sound, you want your fingers to press down directly on the fingerboard, the neck of the mandolin, just behind the fret wire without touching the fret itself. This creates a clean, crisp sound without buzzing. If you're right on the fret, it might sound a little buzzy. So when we say put your finger behind the fret, we mean on the space right behind the fret heading towards the headstock or peg head. And when we say down the neck, we are referring to movement heading towards the peg head, and up the neck means movement towards the body of the mandolin. We say this because when we go down the neck on a string, the notes become lower, and when we go up the neck, notes become higher. Another potentially confusing thing is that when we say we're going up a scale, the physical motion of the strings crossing goes towards the floor. When we're going down the scale, the physical motion of the strings crossing goes up towards the ceiling. If that feels confusing, don't worry too much about it. It will make more sense as we get more into the teachings. Now let's talk about how to tune your mandolin. Very important. You can remember this acronym, G'day, mate, like they say as a hello greeting in Australia. G-D-A-E is how mandolins are typically tuned, from the fattest string to the thinnest string. And they're in pairs. G, G, D, D, A, E. So good day, mate. And the mandolin is tuned just like a violin. G, D, A, E. To tune your mandolin, you're gonna need a tuner. Either a clip-on tuner or an app from your phone will do. Here's a quick guide on how to use it. Alright, so as the legendary mandolin picker Sam Bush said, he spends half his life tuning and the other half playing out of tune. So let's learn how to tune this thing. I've gone ahead and thrown the mandolin out of tune just a little bit, and so once you get your tuner clipped on to the top of the peg head is going to transmit the vibrations of the mandolin into the tuner. Alright, so you can turn your tuner on, however that works. It might be on the front or the back. This is a snark tuner, a very popular low-cost tuner. And then you just play your top G string And see what it says. All right, so it's saying F sharp there. All right, which means that the string is flat. Flat means it is underneath the pitch of where it needs to be, and so to make the string come up in pitch, you're going to turn the tuner counterclockwise, okay? So that's going to be your top G string tuner. It's the one that's closest to the mandolin neck. So you play your string, the top one, and then turn your tuner counterclockwise, and eventually it'll read as a G, and you go slowly, 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 until it pulls it up. And what you're looking for is when the indication gets right in the middle. It might change color there. So you can see now it's reading right in the middle. Okay, so now you can do that with your bottom G string. So that one is reading as a G sharp. So we need to turn it clockwise so it comes down in pitch and reads as a G. There comes G. And a little trick is you always want to go down a little bit so it becomes flat and then come up. So your last tuner motion wants to be counterclockwise to lock it in with the string tension. Okay, so we're almost there. It's starting to read in the middle. A little sharp, so back it down. Come back up again. That's pretty good there. All right, so now you can listen to the strings together. Not quite. So one of the things that I like to do is listen to the top G string, turn the tuner clockwise so it makes it flatter. So the bottom G string is going to be underneath, pitch-wise, the top one. And play the top one, then play the bottom one, and just listen. And then turn the tuner counterclockwise until the beads of the sound disappear. So now we're still reading a little bit sharp. This is a very complicated process that takes years to master. So we'll go back to the top one, get that one in tune, come down a little bit, make sure your last motion is coming up. That's pretty good right there. So again, you can detune your bottom G string. Just come up from the bottom. Listen, listen, listen. And that looks like it's in the middle pretty good. Okay, so you just do that same thing with your D string. Looks like that was just a little bit sharp. So take it down a good bit. Come up from the bottom. Wait for that green light in the middle or whatever your tuner says. There we go. Listen to the bottom one. Ooh, that was way flat. So we come up, turning counterclockwise. Listening, listening, listening. Still a little bit flat. We turn the top one a little bit more so it locks in the middle. And you get both of them to agree. Okay, so when we get to the A strings and the E strings, you gotta remember that all the tuners on the bottom side of the mandolin, the A's and the E's, are going to be in reverse direction when it comes to the sharps and the flats, or the counterclockwise and the clockwise direction that you're tuning. So on the A's and the E's, when you turn counterclockwise now, that's going to make the string pitch go down. So that is backwards to the G's and the D's. It's very important to remember that. So check your A out, G sharp, we want to bring it up, 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 up. So we're turning now clockwise to make the string go sharper. Once this, there we go, it's getting close. Coming down, and we want to come up from below. There we go. So you got your top one in, you can detune your bottom one, and kind of listen for those beats, or just tune into the tuner, but I like to listen. To get it as sweet as possible, same thing with the E's. Yeah, right in there. All right, so there you go. That is how to tune the mandolin. And you're ready to go. Let's dive a bit into basic theory to help you understand the foundation of music. Don't worry, we'll keep it simple and relevant to what you need to know to get started with playing. What is a chord? A chord is simply a group of notes played together that sound good in harmony. The most basic chords are made up of 3 notes that work well together. These 3 notes typically follow a pattern called the 1-3-5 formula, which is also the chord tones or called an arpeggio, and they come from the major scale. You can think of a chord like an open-faced sandwich. The first note is like the bottom slice of bread. The second note is the filling, maybe like avocado, a flavorful note. And then the third note is the egg on top, completing the sandwich. You can also have another piece of bread on top. There are chords with lots of different notes in them. When you put them all together, you have created a chord. So what is a scale? A scale is a specific ordered sequence of notes that helps connect one octave to the next. In a major scale, there are 7 different notes between one octave and the next. In G, the notes are G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and G before it reaches the next octave, which is a higher G note. You can think of that like a musical ladder. Each step or note brings you closer to the next octave, kind of like floors of a house. You can go up the scale, and we call that ascending. And coming down the scale, we call that descending. An octave is simply the same note played at a higher or lower pitch. So if you play a G note, you can play the same G note an octave higher, it sounds brighter, or an octave lower, and it sounds deeper. It's like colors. Think of light green for one octave and dark green for the other. Both are still the same color at their core. The major scale is the most famous and commonly used scale in Western music, and you might recognize it from Do, a deer, a female deer, the Do-Re-Mi song from Sound of Music, which is based on the major scale. The major scale has a specific pattern of steps between the notes, and it's the foundation for building most melodies and chords. There are also many different types of scales in music, like the minor scale, the pentatonic scale, Lydian, Dorian, Mixolydian, on and on, different modes. But for now, we're just going to focus on the major scale, specifically G major and A major, which are the keys we'll be working on in this course. Don't overthink the names, focus on the sound. One of the biggest challenges for beginners is getting caught up in the names of the notes. While it's helpful to know the names of the notes from time to time, the most important thing for us right now is listening to the sound. You're not just learning the names of the notes, you are learning to feel and hear the music inside of you. Ultimately, we want to primarily connect with the sound itself, not the theoretical labels we put on it. So don't worry if you don't know the exact names of every note or chord. Focus on hearing it and feeling it on your mandolin. I encourage you not to over-intellectualize the cognitive aspects of the theory and really open up to the listening aspect as your main goal. All right, so now let's learn our first 3 chords. The most basic chords in many folk and bluegrass songs are G, C, and D. We can play hundreds and thousands of songs with just these 3 great chords. They're great for beginners because you can use them with just 2 fingers on the mandolin. So let's learn our G chord. All right, yeah. Here we go. The G chord has just 2 fingers with it. It's your middle finger going right behind the 3rd fret of the E string. That's the littlest string. So your middle finger right behind the 1, 2, 3, 3rd fret of the E string. Press down real hard, make sure you get a good clear note, make sure it's not buzzing, like that. If you're too close to the 2nd fret, it can also buzz. So right behind the 3rd fret, press down good and hard. It might hurt a little bit at first as you're building your calluses. That's your first note of the G chord. Your 2nd fretted note is going to be your 1st finger right behind the 2nd fret of the A string. That's the 2nd littlest string, all right? So you got your middle finger note, you got your 1st finger note. The D string is open, you're not fretting the D string, and the G string is also open. Okay, so when we strum all 8 strings together, that is our beautiful G chord right there. Okay, you can get to know this. This is your first chord. It's a big deal. Woohoo! We're learning how to play the mandolin. Okay, so let's strum our G chord 8 times in a row. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. Hopefully that's sounding and feeling good to you. And you can do a slow strum where you're kind of hitting each string individually. But generally it's better to play them all at once, more like this. You can kind of really play them all at once real fast. That's good too. But generally, you want to kind of get them all at the same time. It doesn't have to be instant, but you just don't want to go. You can do that, but when we're strumming, strum them all, okay? Now let's learn our C chord. Okay, so the cool thing about the C chord is that it's just like the G chord, except you take all of your fretted fingers upstairs. When we say upstairs, we mean towards the ceiling. So your middle finger note is now going to be on the A string, right behind the 3rd fret. And your first finger note is going to be right behind the 2nd fret of the D string. Okay, so in G, we were on the A and E. Now for C, we're on the D and A string. Your G string is going to be open, and your E string is going to be open, and that is your C chord. We can strum that together. And you just want to make sure that your fingers aren't blocking the G and the E string from singing out. If you're blocking them, you might get kind of that sound. That's what you want to avoid. So what you can do is you can think about rotating your hand this way just a little bit. Just make sure you don't rotate too far and put your thumb on the back of the mandolin. You do not want to start that bad habit. Okay? So you can get some pressure from this part of your hand on the back of the neck, and just make sure that if you need to rotate your hand this way a little bit to get more space so that E string can ring out. That is really important. You want to have good notes on each string. So again, your thumb can be up like this. Just make sure that that E string has its room to vibrate without getting stopped. Alright, so now let's strum our C chord 8 times in a row. Here we go. 1, 2, strum away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Alright, we got 2 chords now. Yay, we're doing good. Let's learn our D chord. The D chord is a different shape. It's going to start with your first finger on the big fat G string here, right behind the 2nd fret. That's going to be your G string note. The D string is open, the A string is open, and then your middle finger is going to go right behind the 2nd fret of the littlest E string. Both of them, really. Okay? So behind the 2nd fret of the G, open D, open A, and your middle finger is going to be behind the 2nd fret of the E string. So it's the same fret with your first finger and your middle finger, and that is our D chord. And again, make sure you're getting a good connection on each note that you're fretting, and you're not covering up the open strings of the D and the A. Everything should be cleanly speaking out. We can also call that articulating each note. Okay? So let's strum our D chord 8 times in a row. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now let's talk a little bit about the right hand. All right, when we're holding the pick, like we talked about before, again, you're going to want to make sure that your fingers aren't splayed out like that. Okay, we want to kind of avoid that. Keep your fingers all together. It's kind of like you got a golf ball in your hand, and the fingertips can kind of be touching each other. That's going to help support your hand and keep all of your fingers connected, and so that's going to give you some more solidarity within your right hand. And stay loose in your right hand. You don't want to just be like stiff with your arm playing like this. It's more about the wrist. Okay, see how my wrist is moving there? And you don't have to exaggerate it, but just make sure you're not just stiff with your arm like that. Okay, so strumming should be a very relaxed motion. And again, you're going to kind of want to be in the sweet spot halfway between the bridge and where the fingerboard comes to the body there. So somewhere in here, if you're back here, it's going to sound too tinny, and when you're up here, it's going to sound a little tubular. So in the middle is the good balance, and that's what we call the sweet spot. All right, now let's do our first simple chord progression. What is a chord progression? It's basically just a sequence of chords that any particular song or tune has. So when we say a chord progression or a chord form, we're talking about the order of the chords within a specific tune or song, or an exercise like we're about to do. So for our first chord progression, we're going to strum 4 times in G, then 4 times in C. So here we go, strumming slowly, 4 times in G, 4 times in C. Here we go, 1, 2, strum away. G, 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 C, Now that might have been going a little quick for some of y'all, but the cool thing is with Dropbox or YouTube, you can use the variable speed playback to adjust the speed, to slow it down if you need to, slowing it down to 75% or something like that. We want to make sure that at this point you are able to strum 4 times in G, 4 times in C fairly well. You might be going more slowly like this, and making the transition cleanly to the C chord can be challenging at first. But stop the video if you need to and work it out so you can get a good sound of your G chord and then a good sound of your C chord as they're connected together. Okay? Now, let's try going from G to D. All right, so we'll strum 4 times in G, 4 times in D, and we will do that whole sequence 2 times. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. G, 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 D, 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 G, 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 Okay, so now you're getting a feel for what it's like to change chords. Let's do a little bit more complex of a chord progression. Let's do G, C, D, G. All right, 4G, 4C, 4D, and 4G. Here we go, going kind of slowly. 1, 2, ready, go. G, 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 D, C, 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 D, 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 G, G. Let's do it again. G, D, D, G, C, 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 D, 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 G, G, G. Okay, so that is our first a little bit complex chord progression. Let's do C to D, just for funsies, okay? So 4 times in C, 4 times in D. Here we go. 1, 2, starting in C. C, 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 C. Now D. D, D, D. Let's go back to C. C, 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 C. Now D. D, 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 D. So you can come up with your own combinations of chords, and I would encourage you to noodle around with different chord progressions. Just anything you can think of. Just try all the different permutations that you can create with your mind. You're only limited with your imagination a lot of times with music. That's one of the beautiful parts about it. As you get more comfortable with these basic chords, you can also learn how to play chop chords, which are a little more percussive and help drive the rhythm, but we will get to those down the road. So when you play these basic chords, strum across all the strings to get the full rich sound. The more you practice strumming all the strings evenly, the more natural it will feel to you. Eventually you'll get the sound to resonate through the instrument, helping you develop better tone and control. By focusing on the sound and feeling the music as you play, you'll start to connect with the mandolin in a more meaningful way. Don't get too hung up on the theory for now, just let the music flow and trust your ear. You'll be amazed at how much you can learn by listening and playing. So there are 2 main ways that we can count the music. There's the way that I and many contemporary teachers teach the way to count the beat, which is the modern count, and then there's the way that has been traditionally written down in musical notation and tablature, which I call the academic count. Since we are not using paper, we do not have to worry about the academic count, so I will explain the modern count here. We are counting the strong beat. This is generally where we pat our foot along with the music. These strong beats we call quarter notes because there are 4 of them in one bar. 4 quarter notes, or 4 foot pats, equals 1 bar of music in the modern count. A bar is a group of beats, and knowing that helps us keep track of the timing and phrasing of the chords and melodies. Now let's get to the boom strum. Yay! The boom strum is an expression you might call onomatopoeia, which is a fancy word that means what it sounds like. So when we're playing a boom strum rhythm, this is how it works. We play a bass note, or a low note and then strum our chord. Alright, boom strum, boom strum, boom strum, boom strum. And the way we count the boom strum is like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. The numbers are the booms and the ands are the strums. So our feet generally pat on the booms, and the quarter notes is what we call them, and strum in the middle of each of them. And this creates a bar filled with eighth notes because there are 8 notes in one bar. 4 booms with a strum in between each of them, equaling 8 total beats. Boom strum, boom strum, boom strum, boom strum. Same thing in C. Boom strum, boom strum, boom strum, boom strum. Same thing in D. Boom strum, boom strum, boom strum, boom strum. Just like that. You might be tempted to write this down, but do not do that. Please trust me. And one thing that might be helpful to think about is when you're strumming, for your strum, you can strum from the G string down. So you can play your G string, strum from the G string down, and that will be a good boom strum. Boom strum, boom strum. Same thing in C, hitting your G string and then strumming across all 8 strings for your good boom strum. Make sure you can get that open E ringing in there. Make sure your notes aren't buzzy. Getting good tone out of each note. Same thing in D. Make sure you're right behind the fret, pressing down good and hard. And then your boom is your 2nd fret of the G. And your strum across all 8 strings. That's your good D chord sound. So you can practice all of your chord progressions that we already learned, 4 beats of G, 4 beats of C, etc., with the boom strum, okay? Let's try that a little bit. So let's try our first simple chord progression, just going from G to C, but now we're going to be doing it with the boom strum. Here we go. 1, 2, boom strum away. G strum, boom strum, boom strum, boom strum. Now C, C strum, C strum, C strum. Back to G, G strum, G strum, G strum. Back to C now, C strum, C strum, C strum, C strum. Excellent. Now let's go from G to D. 4 beats of each. Let's do it 2 times. Doing the boom strum. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. G strum, G strum, G strum. Now go to D. D strum, D strum, D strum. Back to G. G strum, G strum, G strum. D again. D strum, D strum, D strum, D strum. Good. Okay, so now if you're patting your foot on the boom, that can be a good thing to get started with. If it's too challenging right now, don't worry about that coordination, but if it's easy to pat your foot on the numbers, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and, or on the boom, boom strum, boom strum, boom strum, boom strum. That's a cool thing to do. So pat, strum, pat, strum, pat, strum, pat, strum. Now let's do our more complex chord progression. It's the one that goes G, C, D, G. Let's do it with the boom strum. Let's do the whole thing 2 times. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. Boom strum, boom strum, boom strum. Going to C. Boom strum, boom strum, boom strum. Going to D. Boom strum, boom strum, boom strum. Back to G. Boom strum, boom strum. Same thing again. Starting in G, G strum, 2 strum, 3 and 4. Now here's C, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now go to D, D and 2 and 3 and 4. Back to G, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Excellent. And if you're starting to actually count and sing a little bit along with your boom strum, that can be really helpful. Doing that as much as you want to is highly encouraged. Let's talk about the Nashville Number System. This could be the most challenging bit of theory that we learn in the course, but I feel it's so useful and helpful to know. I want to share it with you early so the seed is planted and will grow as we move along. The Nashville Number System was developed by professional musicians working in recording studios to make understanding the chords to a song easier and quicker. So we can think of what a musical key is as what the home chord of a song is. So if our home chord is G, we can also say the key of the song is G. When the key and the home chord of a song is G, we can call that the one chord because that is where we start. Because the mathematical relationships of the main three chords of G, C, and D are always the same, when we go to a different key or home chord like A, those relationships stay the same, although they will have different names in a different key. Like for A, it'll be A, D, and E, so instead of always calling out the names of the chords, it can be much easier to reference the chords by a number, okay? So the home key or chord is always the 1 because, for instance, in G, the 4th note in the G scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, is C, and we call C the 4 chord. And because the 5th note in the G scale is D, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we call it the 5 chord. So if you went to the key of A, the 4 chord would now be D, and the 5 chord would be E. We can just call them by their numbers as it relates to what position in the scale of the home key we are in. That might seem confusing, but don't worry about it. It will make more sense by and by. For now, let's just remember that we were calling the G the 1 chord, C the 4 chord, and D the 5 chord. All right, so now let's do a 1 to 4 chord progression, which is just our new Nashville Numbers system of going from G to C. So here we go, 1, 2, starting in G. 1, 1, 1, 1, C. 4, 4, 4, 4. Back to G, the 1 chord. 1, 1, 1. Here's the 4, which is C. 3 times and 4. Okay, so now let's go 1 to 5, which is going to be G to D. G is our 1 chord, D is our 5 chord. Here we go. 2 times. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 1 chord, 1 chord, 1 chord. Now to D. 5, 5, 5, 5. Back to 1. 1, 1, 1, 1. Here's your 5. 5, 5, 5, 5. Excellent. Now let's do our chord progression that goes from G to C to D and then back to G. Okay, this is going to be 1, 4, 5, 1. Do it 2 times. Here we go. 1, 2, boom, strum away. 1, 1, 1, 1 to C. 4, 4, 4, 4 to D. 5, 5, 5, 5 to G. 1, 1, whole thing again, staying in G. 1, 1, 1, 1 to C. 4, 4, 4, 4 to D. 5, 5, 5, 5 to G. 1, 1, 1, 1. All right, so now we're getting a little bit of more of an affinity with understanding what's happening with the Nashville Number System. When you go to jam sessions down the road, people will be like, oh, okay, I'm going to do Lonesome Road Blues in the key of B. It just goes 1, 4, 1, 4, 1, 5. And then so if this little seed of the Nashville Number System is planted, then down the road you'll understand more about what they're talking about when you hear people talking about the chords as numbers. Another little bit of helpful theory is that the 5 chord, in our case here in the key of G, is D, usually resolves back to the 1 there. All of the musical tension that is created through the progression resolves from the 5 to the 1. Now let's play our first song. It's going to be with our 1, 4, 5 progression, or G, C, D, G. It's going to be 4 beats of each chord, and we're going to play it through 4 times. You can sing along if you like to. It's got some easy words and you can learn them. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. Learning music can be fun. See, all you need to do is strum D. Hang in there, it won't be long. G until we've played our first whole song again. Learning music can be fun. time. Learning music can be fun. All you need to do is strum. Hang in there, it won't be long until you've learned your whole first song. All right, there we go. We are picking and a grinning, having some fun learning the mandolin. We are making wonderful progress here today. We have a couple more pieces of our first week lesson to learn. Right now, it's time to learn the G major scale. Yay! We're going to learn 2 octaves, ascending and descending. Here's what it sounds like. That's the G major scale with 2 octaves, ascending and descending. Let's break it down. So the key to doing this right is to make sure your fingers are firmly fretting right behind the fret and that there is good solid contact between the string and the fretboard and the string is not buzzing at all. This will take a good amount of time to do easily and your fingers may hurt a bit as you are developing your calluses, but please trust the process. It will get easier and it'll be more fun when it is easier. So please put the good work in and you'll feel good about the merit you accumulate as you progress. The first octave of the G major scale sounds like this. That's from one G note, the open G, to the 5th fret of the D. That's ascending, going up the scale. Here's what it sounds like coming down or descending. This is the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. This is your G major scale sound. What's happening on the G string? Starts off with the open G, then your first finger goes on the 2nd fret, right behind the 2nd fret. When we say on the 2nd fret, we really mean right behind it. So your first note's open, 2nd note is your first finger, right behind the 2nd fret. 3rd note is your middle finger on the 4th fret. Ring finger now on the 5th fret. So those are your first 4 notes. Open, 2nd, 4th, 5th. Okay, so make sure you can get good clear notes before moving on. Those are your first 4 notes. The next 4 notes are on the D string. It starts off with the open D string, and it's the same numbers of the frets as we played on the G string. So 2nd fret next, 4th fret after that with your middle finger, and then your ring finger on the 5th fret. All right, so going over that once more, it's open G, first finger, 2nd fret of the G, middle finger, 4th fret of the G, ring finger, 5th fret, G, open D, 2nd fret of the D, first finger, 4th fret of the D, middle finger, and then the ring finger on the 5th fret. All right, that is your first octave of the G major scale. Let's play it together slowly. All downstrokes. We'll get the upstroke in the game a little farther down the road. So here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. Open, 2, 4, 5. Open, 2, 4, 5. Let's do it again. 1, 2, ready, go. Open, 2, 4, 5. Open, 2, 4, 5. Excellent. Now let's descend through this first octave of the major G scale. So it's going to be the same notes, just backwards, starting from the 5th fret of the D. So here we go. 1, 2, 5th fret of the D. 5, 4, 2, open. 5, 4, 2, open. Let's do that again, starting on the 5th fret of the D. 1, 2, ready, go. 5, 4, 2, open. 5, 4, 2, open. Okay, doing good. So now let's play ascending and then descending, and we'll play the 5th fret of the D twice. So it'll sound like this, just slower. Here we go, playing together. 1, 2, go and slow. Open, 2, 4, 5. Open, 2, 4, 5, 5 again. 5, 4, 2, open. 5, 4, 2, open. Excellente. Okay, so now we're going to play the top octave, or the second octave, of the G major scale. It starts on the 5th fret of the D, and it sounds like this. Okay, so it starts on the 5th fret of the D, and then it's the open A string, and then the 2nd fret, just like we played on the G and the D string. Now here's where the pattern changes. So on the G and the D string, we played the 4th fret with our middle finger, but on the A string now, in the top octave, we're going to play the 3rd fret. All right, and we will not play the 4th fret. We'll go right to the 5th fret. Okay, so those notes again, 5th fret of the D, open A, 2nd fret, 3rd fret, and the 5th fret, and then we go to the open E, then 2nd fret of the E, and then the whole thing ends at the 3rd fret of the E. Okay, so the big key to memorizing the 2-octave major G scale is that the G and the D string have the 4th fret, and the A and the E string have the 3rd fret. Okay, so let's go over the top octave one more time. 5th fret of the D, open A, 2nd fret, 3rd fret, 5th fret, open E, 2nd fret, 3rd fret. Okay, so as we come back from the 3rd fret of the E all the way to the 5th fret of the D, it's going to sound like this. So let's play that together just more slowly. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. 3, 2, open, 5, 3, 2, open, 5. Once more, ready, go. 3, 2, open, 5, 3, 2, open, 5. All right, so let's go ahead and descend all the way from the 5th fret of the D to the open G. Ready, go. 5, 4, 2, open, 5, 4, 2, open. Okay, so now let's play the 2-octave major G ascending scale from the open G all the way to the top G, which is the 3rd fret of the E. So we're going to be playing 3 Gs as we go from the low note to the high note. The first G is open G. The 5th fret of the D is also a G note, and then the 3rd G is the top note, which is the 3rd fret of the E. So we got a G here, we got a G there, we got a G on the top. So those are all different octaves of the same note, which is G. So let's play the 2-octave major G ascending scale. Here we go. 1, 2, going slow. Open, 2, 4, 5, open, 2, 4, 5, open, 2, 3, 5, open, 2, 3, coming back, same note. 3, 2, open, 5, 3, 2, open, 5, 4, 2, open, 5, 4, 2, open. If you want to strum with your 2-finger G at the end of it, that can be a nice way to round out the exercise. So you can think about playing this 2-octave major G scale with 1 single stroke or 2 downstrokes on each note like this. Or 3 downstrokes per note. This would kind of be like triplets. Or 4 downstrokes per note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up and all the way down. And you can round it out with a nice strum of your 2-finger G chord. And again, we'll add the upstroke for what we call alternating picking down the road. So don't worry about that for now. The last thing we want to do is to learn the real engine of beginning mandolin, and it's called the shuffle lick. It mimics the sound of the fiddle bow. can use the word strawberry to remember it. Strawberry, 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 strawberry. And with the modern count, it's going to be one long eighth note and then two short 16th notes. All right, and please make sure you always do this down, down, up. You do not want to create bad muscle memory for yourself. It takes a lot of time and effort to deprogram it if you've learned it wrong. So please put in the good effort and make sure that it's always down, down, up. So with your strawberry shuffle lick, you can play your major scale like this. Strawberry, 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 strawberry. Just please make sure you remember that it's down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up. Some folks that I've worked with have turned it into strawberry, 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 with a little pause after the berry. You do not want to do that. You want it to all flow together. Strawberry, 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 strawberry. If you're going to count it with the modern count, it'd be like this. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a... So once again, with the timing, make sure you are accenting the straw of strawberry and not the re. Please, please, please save yourself trouble. Make sure you do not do this. Accenting just means playing it a little harder or louder, okay? The rhythmic accent of the beginning of the straw is the right way to do it, not the re. Okay, so that is a lot of information and learning for 1 week, so let's hit our glide slope towards wrapping things up. With your daily practicing, I want to encourage you to cultivate the good, healthy discipline of working with the 3 pillars of practice. Yay! I have seen for years that when folks follow this closely, steady progress is made. It's a diverse routine that allows for some freedom in what you decide to practice, but also keeps good diversity in the different important areas of development. Pillar 1 is the grunt work. At this point, it means practicing the G major scale in 2 octaves, up and down. You can also include your iterations here too, which are the 2 strokes, 3 strokes, and 4 strokes with each note. You can also do your shuffle lick, practice switching chords with the patterns that we did before, G to C, G to D, G to C to D to G. And you can play and sing that little tune that we learned. That can be fun to do. This will be your first grunt work. Pillar 2 is working on your internal repertoire. In the course folder, there is a document called Simple Songs. You can print this out and use it as a guide for Pillar 2. See if you can pick out some of those simple songs that you already know in your heart in the key of G. This may be very, very challenging at first, but don't get too discouraged if you can't figure it out. You will get better at it as you progress. The most important thing now is just to noodle around for your second third of your practice and see if you can find some of those melodies or even pieces of them. I recommend just strumming your 2-finger G chord and see if you can hum the first few notes of the melody, like Mary had a little lamb, and then try to pick those notes out to get your start. This is what we call hacking, and it's one of the most critically important skills to begin developing from the beginning. In essence, this is where we learn to teach ourselves through exploring and trial and error. I've found time and again that when we put in our good work with the music, it always meets us halfway. Pillar 3 is external repertoire. This is where you're working on picking out songs or tunes. Tunes are what we call songs that don't have words, also called instrumental music. In bluegrass, they're often called fiddle tunes. So you can listen to a song or tune you like, and a great place to do this practice is with YouTube, because you can slow the music down with the variable speed control so you can hear the individual notes more easily. You can listen, listen, listen until you can hum the melody a little bit, then start to pick the notes out one at a time. Again, this can be very challenging and frustrating at first, but please put the time in and trust the process, because the more you do that, the more you will be building the bridge to the music coming out of your mandolin. You can also use Pillar 3 to get to know some of the melodies you might already know, but don't know completely. Say you might kind of know You Are My Sunshine, but you aren't sure of all the notes. So you can look it up on YouTube and get the shape of the melody in your mind better. Learning the words to the songs can be crucial for learning the melody, so please try to do that as much as you can for the singing songs. And sometimes on YouTube it might be in a different key, but if you can just get it to where you can hum it and then bring it to G, that'll work good. In the main course folder, there is another folder that says Simple Songs for Pillar 2 and 3. You can listen to these recordings and videos in the key of G for now and help tune your ear into the melodies as you are hacking them out in your Pillar 2 and 3 practice. I would recommend focusing with 1 or 2 of these different songs a day. So 10 minutes Pillar 1, that's your grunt work. 10 minutes Pillar 2, that's your internal repertoire, and 10 minutes Pillar 3, that is your external repertoire. I hope you've enjoyed this week's first lesson, and we'll see you on week 2 when we learn to pick out the melody of our first song, Mary Had a Little Lamb. Adios, neighbors! Ahoo! We did it! See you next week.